hush fell over the banquet hall, everyone completely stunned by the insane turn of events. Shareholder Taylor had been bribed by Angelica. The plagiarism, the false accusation, it was all real. All of it, just so Angelica could get her hands on the Ellington Group inheritance. And Hazel was the one who'd been framed and slandered from the start. If Damien hadn't stepped in, what would have happened to her? A guest said, "The actual Ellington heiress. God, how tragic." Another guest added, "I thought I'd seen it all, but this? The whole Ellington family is shameless. And Angelica? She's a celebrity, a public figure, and she had the nerve to frame her own sister?" A third guest remarked, "Mr. Ellington had to have known. There's no way he didn't know what would happen to Hazel after getting kicked out with a plagiarism accusation hanging over her head. He basically left her for dead." Troy's face went beet red, and the room started to spin. He yelled, "That's a lie! I'm her father!" Someone from the crowd shouted back, "Father? Don't make me laugh. You don't deserve to even say that word." A guest wondered aloud, "But with all this, does that mean Damien is still going to go through with the collaboration?" Hazel nonchalantly ran a hand through her hair. "Dad, I was going to introduce the Ellington Group to the Brown Group out of the goodness of my heart, but you chose to believe my dear stepsister instead of me. So, oh well." She let out a theatrical sigh and turned to Damien. "Mr. Brown, I guess I'll just have to work with you directly. I mean, I've already been kicked out of the Ellington Group, right?" Damien smiled. "Works for me. Mr. Ellington, we'll be on our way." With a final arching brow, Hazel turned and strolled out of the banquet hall, Damien right beside her. "Angelica!" A furious voice boomed from the crowd. One of the shareholders couldn't take it anymore. "You swore you'd get us the Brown Group collaboration, and now the deal just walked out the door with someone else." Another shareholder yelled, "We never should have trusted you. All you're good for is scheming. You practically pushed Damien right into her arms." Someone else added, "If we'd just backed the rightful heiress from the start, look at her. She's about to be a partner with the Brown Group, and you're stuck here, publicly humiliated for being a fraud." Color flooded Angelica's face, then drained away just as fast. No, she hadn't lost. She couldn't have lost. Why would Damien pick Hazel? Why? She was the celebrity, the famous designer. She couldn't be branded a plagiarist. She wouldn't let this ruin her. Someone called out, "Angelica! Angelica!" Another person yelled, "Somebody help! Angelica fainted!" The banquet hall erupted into chaos. Meanwhile, Damien guided Hazel to a quiet, camera-free corner and looked her up and down. "Looks like you're doing all right for yourself," he said. Hazel let out an amused hum. "Of course I am. Watching the Ellingtons crash and burn? It's been therapeutic." Damien said, "Angelica has a huge fan base. Today won't be enough to completely tank her reputation. And from what I hear, she saved Landon's life 4 years ago. You think he'll step in to help her?" Hazel's face fell. "Did you have to go and ruin the mood?" Landon, who had just walked up behind them, raised an eyebrow. Damien was relentless. "I'm just being realistic. You know how manipulative she is." Hazel considered it. "I don't think Landon's that stupid. She saved his life, sure, but that doesn't mean he owes her his." Landon's lips curved into a subtle smile. So, Mrs. Morgan thinks I'm intelligent. Should I thank her? Damien shrugged. So, do you need my help with what comes next? The International Design Competition is coming up. Angelica keeps telling everyone she's a student of STAR. What do you say? Should the real STAR show up and expose her as a fraud? Years ago, while she was overseas, Hazel had casually registered an account as STAR and submitted a design. It skyrocketed to first place in the international competition. Every year since, her work dominated, and STAR became a legend in the design world. The whole time, nobody had a clue that the legendary designer was actually a young woman. Hazel's eyes lit up. Of course, but not yet. My identity as STAR needs to stay a secret for now. Because, is Mrs. Morgan a fan of STAR too? A deep, indifferent male voice suddenly cut her off. Hazel choked, sputtering. When did Landon get here? Did he hear all that? Landon's eyes glinted, a teasing smile on his lips. I couldn't help but overhear you talking about STAR. You have my attention. Hazel stammered. Oh, yeah. Damien, let me introduce you. This is Mr. Morgan. A pleasure, Damien said, extending his hand. We meet again. Something unreadable flickered in Landon's eyes. It has been a while. I didn't expect to see you in Athenbough, Mr. Brown. Hazel blinked. Wait, you two know each other? Years ago, Damien had stumbled upon a dramatic Morgan family feud. Landon had just returned to the family then. It was the most humiliating time of his life. He'd had to claw his way up from nothing, but even back then, his eyes had the sharp glint of a wolf. Now, a decade later, he was the powerful head of the Morgan family. Landon's tone was dismissive. We met once, by chance. If that's all, Mr. Brown, I'll be taking Hazel home. Hazel blinked, then turned to Damien. Yeah, I'm gonna head home. Be careful on your way out. Don't let your fans spot you or you'll cause another traffic jam. As Damien watched them walk away, his eyes narrowed. He turned to his assistant. Landon was here the whole time? Yes, sir, the assistant confirmed. Mr. Morgan showed up right after Miss Hazel and followed her in. He was in the crowd watching the whole time. Damien raised an eyebrow. So I help Hazel out like that, and he's not the least bit jealous? The assistant hesitated. Sir, I overheard Mr. Morgan talking to his own assistant, Jack. It sounded like he already knew about your history with Miss Hazel. How strange, Damien thought. Landon knows her that well? Inside Landon's car, Hazel had just clicked her seatbelt into place when Landon asked, Would you be interested in having the Morgan Group collaborate with you on your couple's brooch design? She tilted her head. You want to offer me a contract? Landon's smile didn't falter. Mm-hmm. Your designs are unique. But doesn't the Morgan Group already have its own design team? Landon lowered his gaze, his voice like he was luring a fox into a trap. 2 of our designers just resigned, so we're looking for replacements. Besides you, there are 2 other candidates. One of them is Angelica. Hazel nearly jumped out of her seat. Angelica? Completely unfazed, Landon continued. However, given the recent scandal, she's no longer a viable candidate. Hazel's cheeks puffed out. You're not blaming me for that, are you? So who's the other candidate? Landon's tone was unreadable. The other one, of course, is the renowned designer, Star. Between the two of them, who do you think is the better fit? Hazel huffed. Is that even a question? Star, obviously. What is wrong with his taste? She thought. He was considering me, but he was also debating between me and Angelica? Is he blind? Oh? And why's that? Landon's voice dropped to a low, seductive murmur. Star is notoriously hard to get a hold of. She might not be interested in joining the Morgan group. Hazel cleared her throat. Well, you'll never know if you don't ask, will you? A faint smirk tugged at Landon's lips. Without missing a beat, Hazel launched into a shameless plug for herself. Star has won countless awards. She's easily the most celebrated designer of her generation. She's not just talented, she's also humble and approachable. If you make a sincere offer, I'm sure she'd consider it. She added, she's a once-in-a-generation talent. Angelica doesn't even come close. Landon's smirk deepened. I see. I'll reach out to her then. Hazel beamed, satisfied. A moment later, she heard Landon chuckle. So, Miss Star, he asked, his voice laced with amusement. Would you be willing to join the Morgan group? Hazel froze. Wait, what did he just say? Did he just call me Star? He knew. He'd known this whole time. Hazel was completely stunned, her mind reeling as the rest of his words slowly registered. Mrs. Morgan certainly isn't shy about singing her own praises, Landon remarked. Hazel felt her breath catch, a lump tightening in her throat as her face flushed crimson. You, she sputtered, unable to get a single coherent word out. Her brain felt like it had short-circuited. She couldn't believe this guy. He obviously knew everything from the very beginning and still led her right into his trap. Deciding to just own it, Hazel lifted her chin stubbornly. I am that amazing, so what's wrong with giving myself a little credit? Landon raised an eyebrow, his tone teasing. Fair enough. Hazel felt like she was going to choke. Just then, Jack handed him a file. Landon took it and said casually, Here's the contract. Take a look. Hazel's eyes scanned the page and immediately locked onto a name. Ethereal Lux? You're giving me this studio? Landon said, If we're going to work with Star, we need to show them we're serious. Hazel's mind was racing. But as far as I know, this studio isn't in your name. Ethereal Lux was the Morgan Group's high-end luxury brand, and Amelia had it under her thumb. Landon's expression was unreadable. Not yet. That's why I need to pay a visit to the Morgan estate. Hazel was confused. So, he was going to the Morgan family home just to snatch it away from Amelia? Oh, this was going to be a show. Hazel cleared her throat. Well, since it's going to be my studio, I should probably be there for the handover. I'm coming with you. Landon didn't call her out on her obvious thirst for drama. All right. The next day, around noon, Landon drove Hazel to the Morgan family estate. The guards at the gate stiffened the moment they saw him. One of the guards asked, Mr. Morgan, what are you doing here? Landon walked right past them without a second glance. Panicked, one of the guards stepped forward to block his path. The chairman and madam are having lunch. If you have business with them, I can announce you. Hazel arched an eyebrow. Landon, isn't this your house? Why do you need a guard to let you in? Who's in charge here? The guard's face darkened. Mr. Morgan, these are the madam's orders. You can't just... Jack smoothly stepped in, blocking the guard's path. Landon's face remained a blank mask. Let's go. Hazel blinked and hurried to keep up, already picturing the look on Amelia's face. Meanwhile, in the Morgan Estates dining room, Amelia, Daniel, and Owen had just sat down for lunch when a maid rushed in, her face pale with anxiety. Chairman, Madam, Mr. Morgan is here. The mood at the table instantly soured. Amelia scowled. Didn't I say Landon has to be announced before he comes in? The maid cried out. We couldn't stop him, Madam. He just forced his way in. With a loud clatter, Amelia slammed her chopsticks on the table, making the maid flinch. That ungrateful brat! Does he have any respect for me at all? Owen quickly tried to placate her. Mom, don't get upset. Maybe Landon has something urgent to discuss. Amelia sneered. Even if he does, he should know his place. He just can't shake that trashy upbringing. Hazel strolled in with a smirk. What kind of family locks their own son out of the house but sets a place at the dinner table for their adopted one? Oh, I get it now. Those are the famous Morgan family rules. Amelia's face went from pale to a blotchy red. Hazel, Landon, you brought this woman here just to ruin our lunch? Have you no shame? Is this how a son behaves? Hazel blinked innocently. It's lunchtime. Can't Landon come home for a meal? Wow, is the great Morgan family so broke they can't even feed their own son? Amelia sputtered. That's ridiculous! You... Owen quickly patted Amelia's back. Landon, what are you doing? You know Mom's health is fragile. Why are you trying to upset her like this? Can't you just talk things out normally? Hazel clicked her tongue. Wow, Landon, you poor thing. You haven't said a single word and they're already blaming you for everything. Enough, Daniel snapped, frowning. Landon, you barely ever come home. Just say why you're here. Hazel's gaze shifted to the chairman of the Morgan Group. This was one of the people who had pushed Anna to the edge, fueling the depression that ultimately killed her. Landon's expression was flat as he cut right to the chase. I'm here to take back the Ethereal Lux shares. Chairman Morgan, sign the papers. A set of equity transfer documents landed on the table in front of Daniel. Amelia's face twisted into a snarl. I knew you were up to no good. Landon, are you even human? You're trying to steal your own mother's company. Owen quickly jumped in. Landon, don't you think you're going too far? Mom has poured her heart and soul into Ethereal Lux. She deserves credit for all her hard work. How can you just take it from her like this? Daniel struggled to contain his fury. Landon, transferring ownership of Ethereal Lux isn't that simple. Landon's voice was ice cold, his eyes devoid of any warmth as he cut him off. Chairman Morgan, he continued, I'm not asking for your permission. I'm informing you. Daniel's fingers trembled. Jack stepped forward respectfully. Chairman Morgan, Ethereal Lux originally belonged to Mr. Morgan. Mrs. Perry acquired it through questionable means. Mr. Morgan is simply taking back what is rightfully his. Jack continued, If either of you has an issue, you're welcome to take legal action. However, once word gets out that the esteemed Mrs. Perry has been squatting on her own son's company, the resulting fallout, well, that won't be something Mr. Morgan can control. Daniel's jaw clenched. You ungrateful son. Landon tapped his fingers on the table. Sign it. Swallowing his pride, Daniel reluctantly scrawled his signature. Amelia's face went white as a sheet. That was her golden goose. Ethereal Lux was a brand adored by high society, bringing in nearly $1 billion a year for her. And that scoundrel Landon had just snatched it away like it was nothing. Owen felt a knot tighten in his gut. Amelia had promised him Ethereal Lux would be his one day, and now, to his frustration, it was in Landon's hands. Suddenly, an idea sparked. Gritting his teeth, he forced a friendly smile. "Landon, since you're already here, why don't we all have lunch together? As a family?" Hazel raised a surprised eyebrow. Wow, talk about composure. The guy really knew how to take a hit. Landon's expression was indifferent. "Are you sure?" A muscle in Owen's jaw twitched. "Not here, of course. Let's go to Ambrosia. It's been a while since you've been there, right?" Ambrosia was a famous upscale restaurant. Hazel was wondering what Owen was playing at when he spoke again, a clear note of triumph in his voice. "After all, Ambrosia was something you worked so hard to build back in the day. But you haven't been back once since you signed it over to me. Now that you have a free moment, why don't we all go check it out? What do you say?" And there it was. Hazel got it. This was another one of Landon's creations that Owen had stolen. A petty man enjoying his petty victory. This wasn't an invitation. It was a chance to rub salt in the wound. Owen watched Landon closely, searching his face for any flicker of anger. But there was nothing. Landon just glanced up, completely unbothered. "Sure." A wave of satisfaction washed over Owen, the sweet taste of revenge. "Glad to have you on board, brother. I'll have the manager get things set up. Funny, you're the one who promoted him, but now he only answers to me. Bet that stings, huh?" Hazel immediately bristled. Seriously, what was wrong with this guy? Did he love the sound of his own voice that much? She was about to jump down his throat when Landon turned to Owen, his expression flat and indifferent. "He's useless. If you want to keep him around, be my guest." Hazel was speechless. Owen's face tightened. What was Landon getting at? That the manager was worthless? Did that make Ambrosia worthless too? Owen scoffed. Landon could talk all he wanted. He'd be singing a different tune once he saw the restaurant's profits. He'd be green with envy. Even if Landon had taken back Ethereal Lux, Ambrosia was still firmly in his hands. Amelia couldn't shake a bad feeling. Landon had caved way too easily. There had to be a catch. But the restaurant was staffed top to bottom with their people. Even if Landon wanted to pull something, he couldn't. With that thought, a sneer tugged at Amelia's lips. "Well then, let's have them clear this table. We're having dinner at Ambrosia." A few moments later, 2 cars pulled up to Ambrosia. The manager and a few of his top staff hurried out to greet them personally. "Mr. Morgan, Mrs. Morgan, Owen, so glad you could make it. Please, right this way." Owen soaked up the flattery, especially since the manager was pointedly ignoring Landon. It made the moment that much sweeter. "Manager," he said, "I think you forgot my brother." The manager made a show of slapping his forehead. "Oh, my apologies. I didn't even see Mr. Landon there. A big shot like you won't hold a grudge against a little guy like me, will you?" Owen smirked, his tone dripping with fake sympathy. "Landon, you can't blame the manager. This place is mine now, after all. It makes sense he wouldn't recognize you." Hazel let out a short, sarcastic laugh. She'd dealt with plenty of catty, two-faced women, but this was a new one. A guy who played the doe-eyed victim this well. She fired right back. "Oh, so the manager's memory is that bad? He looks like he's barely 40, but his mind is already slipping? Didn't Owen just say he used to work for Landon? How could he forget that fast? Maybe he should get that checked out before it turns into full-blown dementia." The manager's face went pale, his smile freezing on his face. Hazel didn't even bother to give him another look. "Landon, let's go." A small, amused smile played on Landon's lips. Once they were a few steps inside, Hazel muttered through clenched teeth. "They're completely out of line. You took back Ethereal Lux. Why not just take Ambrosia, too?" Landon replied casually, "Hazel, like I said before, I don't bother with useless people. The same goes for useless businesses." Hazel was floored. Ambrosia is one of the top 5 restaurants in Athenbough. It brings in a ton of revenue. How is that useless? Or was Landon just too rich to care about a single restaurant? Before she could get an answer, he leaned in close, his warm breath ghosting over her lips. "Those revenue numbers are just for show. What the Morgan Group tells the public. Do you really think someone as incompetent as Owen could actually run a place like this?" Hazel had rarely heard Landon talk about anyone with such open contempt. Clearly, Owen had really gotten under his skin. "If you're not going to take the restaurant back, then why are we even here?" Landon wouldn't waste his time on a family dinner with the Morgans, would he? Landon's gaze swept over their surroundings, that unreadable smile back on his face. "I just wanted to see for myself what a complete failure Owen really is. To see just how badly he had run what was once a top-tier restaurant into the ground." Hazel's eyes glinted with mischief. The Morgans were willing to burn cash just to cook the books, all to keep people from calling their precious adopted son incompetent. And if that was the case, she might as well add a little fuel to the fire and let all of Athenbough know what a total failure Owen really was. Soon, the food was served. Hazel's fingertips barely twitched. No one saw the fine white powder dissolve into the seafood chowder. Owen, playing the gracious host, wore a smug smile. "Go on, brother. Give it a try. See if Ambrosia tastes any different after all these years." Landon's tone was as cool as ever. "You that curious? I just want to know who ran it better, you or me." Owen glanced at the manager. "What do you think?" The manager practically fell over himself to chime in. "Oh, Owen, by a mile! I've never seen a leader as capable as him. Every decision he makes is a win for the restaurant. I mean, no offense, Mr. Landon, but compared to Owen, you just fall a bit short." Daniel and Amelia finally looked satisfied. Hazel watched them lie through their teeth and asked with wide-eyed innocence, "Wow, in that case, Ambrosia's revenue must be through the roof, right? What is it, like 10 billion? 20? 30 billion dollars?" Landon took a slow sip of his tea, silently amused. Owen's jaw tightened. "Miss Ellington, maybe you should keep your mouth shut when you don't know anything about business. No restaurant on earth makes that kind of money." Hazel blinked, then gasped, covering her mouth in mock surprise. "Oh, it doesn't? I'm so sorry, I had no idea. It's just for Landon. 10 or 20 billion is basically pocket change. When you said you were more capable, I just assumed you were making more money than he does." She lowered her voice, feigning confusion. "So you don't? I'm a little confused then. Owen, if you make less money than Landon and your company is smaller than his, where exactly does the confidence to say you're more capable come from?" Everyone at the table practically choked. Owen slammed his hands on the table. "Hazel!" Hazel feigned a startled jump. "Oh, I'm so sorry, Owen. I didn't realize the truth would upset you so much. My mistake. If I'd known, I would have just sucked up to you like the manager and fed you a bunch of sweet little lies to keep you happy." That last comment was like pouring gasoline on a fire. Owen's face turned a blotchy purple as he gasped for air. Daniel, refusing to watch his favorite son be humiliated, shot to his feet. "Enough!" "Hazel, either eat and shut your mouth or get out." Owen, ever the schemer, fanned the flames. "Dad, don't be angry. It's not good for your health." He adopted a wounded look. "Maybe Miss Ellington is just sticking up for my brother. In her eyes, I guess I stole his restaurant. It's all my fault." Daniel's temper finally blew. He slammed his fist on the table. "Sticking up for him? Landon is my son. When I tell him to do something, he does it. It's just a damn restaurant. Why is he being so petty about it?" Owen smirked, soaking in his father's favoritism. "See? No matter what, Landon would always be the one who got yelled at. Because he, Owen, was the cherished son." As Daniel's angry shouts faded, an eerie silence fell over the private dining room. Hazel just sat there, looking at the three of them like they were corpses waiting to be buried. And then she smiled. Amelia said, "Seriously, Landon? Are you really this petty? You and Owen are family. It's just a restaurant. Are you really going to hold a grudge over this?" "And you just let Hazel stand there making all these sarcastic comments? Is this your way of accusing us of playing favorites? Did it ever occur to you why we favor him? It's because you can't measure up. Owen is better than you in every way. So, of course, we..." Wow, looks like Mrs. Perry isn't just blind, she's brainless too. Hazel cut in with a smirk, waving her phone. "I recorded that, and I'm going to make sure it gets played on a loop for everyone to hear. If that got out, the Morgan family would become a laughingstock." "Hazel, this is a family matter. You're just asking for trouble." Before Amelia could finish, a sharp pain shot through her stomach. She stumbled, sweat beading on her forehead. She wondered why it hurt so much. Her gaze locked with Hazel's, and a terrifying thought took root. You poisoned me?" Hazel blinked, the picture of innocence. "Mrs. Perry, what are you talking about?" Right on cue, she thought. The poison was working perfectly. Amelia trembled, the pain so intense she couldn't get a single word out. Daniel panicked and rushed to steady her, but before he could curse them out, a sharp pain shot through his own stomach. He collapsed, sprawling on the floor in agony. Owen's heart pounded in his chest. He never thought Landon and Hazel would be this bold. His parents were poisoned. Did that mean he was next? "Landon, even if Mom and Dad don't like you, they're still your parents. How could you be so vicious?" The words were barely out of his mouth before his whole body convulsed. A searing pain ripped through him, like he'd been struck by lightning. He let out a scream of agony. It all happened so fast. Daniel fighting through the pain. "Landon! Give us the antidote, now, or I swear you'll regret this." Hazel didn't even flinch. "The police station is right next door. You want me to call them for you?" Then, as if nothing had happened, she casually ladled a bowl of soup. "Mr. Morgan, the three of you started feeling sick right after drinking the seafood chowder. If you're so sure Landon and I poisoned you, that has to be the source." She gestured to the pot. "So how about this? Landon and I will each drink a bowl. That should clear things up, right?" Landon glanced at the bowl in front of him, the corner of his mouth twitching into a slight smile. He'd seen Amelia add something to the soup earlier. Was she really that confident it was safe to drink? Hazel gave him a quick wink. Landon raised an eyebrow, then tipped the bowl back and drank the whole thing down. "See, Mr. Morgan?" Hazel said. "There's nothing wrong with the soup." It was impossible. Daniel was certain Hazel must have taken an antidote beforehand. He'd always known Landon was trouble, and this just proved it. He valued his life more than anything. If Landon had really tried to poison him, he wasn't holding back. "Somebody call the police! Landon, don't blame me for being ruthless!" "That's it. I'm cutting you off, once and for all." Hazel just raised an eyebrow, looking completely unbothered as she continued to eat. It wasn't long before the police arrived. As the doors to the private dining room swung open, curious diners and staff paused to watch the drama unfold. Daniel, drenched in a cold sweat, "Officer, I want to report a crime. My son Landon tried to murder us. He poisoned us." The onlookers gasped, and even the officers looked alarmed, stepping forward quickly. Hazel stood up calmly. "Tonight, Owen invited Landon and me to dinner at Ambrosia. The whole time he kept belittling Landon, saying a washed-up celebrity is worse than a nobody. I defended Landon and Owen got mad," she continued. "He couldn't win the argument, and then all of a sudden, Mrs. Morgan and Mr. Morgan started complaining about stomach aches. A few minutes later, Owen started saying his stomach hurt too, and they all immediately accused us of poisoning them." Hazel shook her head. "Officers, they all got sick after drinking the seafood chowder. To prove we had nothing to do with it, Landon and I both drank a bowl of the same soup. And as you can see, we're perfectly fine." Watching Hazel spin a story out of thin air with a perfectly straight face, Landon fought back a smirk. "Hazel, you don't have to say anything else. The truth is the truth. I trust the police will clear our names." Just then, the paramedics arrived. The three Morgans kept wailing and groaning while the lead paramedic rushed to draw their blood. They also took a sample of the chowder to be tested. 15 minutes later, the medics exchanged glances, their brows furrowed. Owen, burning with frustration, knew he had to nail Landon for this. His voice was tight with urgency. "Doctor, how serious is the poison?" The medics looked at each other before one finally spoke. "I'm sorry, Mr. Morgan, but we haven't found any trace of poison in your systems." "No poison? How was that possible?" Daniel shuddered. "If we weren't poisoned, then why are we all in so much pain? Did Landon pay you off?" The medic frowned. "Sir, I'm just stating the facts. If you doubt my diagnosis, feel free to call another doctor for a second opinion. You can't possibly think Landon bribed every doctor in the city, can you?" Right on cue, the Morgan family's private physician arrived. He hesitated before confirming. "Mr. Morgan, you haven't been poisoned." Owen was livid. "That's impossible! This is insane! We're in agony! If it's not poison, then what in the world is it?" Maybe you just ate something that didn't agree with you, Hazel mused casually. After all, the three of you have been feasting on rich food all night. Sometimes spoiled food doesn't sit well with a delicate stomach. Then, as if a thought had just struck her, her eyes widened in mock surprise. Oh, wait a second. Could it be you're afraid of damaging the restaurant's reputation? So instead of admitting the fish wasn't fresh, you'd rather just blame Landon for poisoning you? Hazel's eyes welled with tears, and she threw herself into Landon's arms. Landon, this is horrible. First they make you give Owen the restaurant, and now that its food is making people sick, they want you to take the fall for it. Owen exploded. Hazel, cut the act. There's nothing wrong with this restaurant. Our ingredients are all fresh. You must have done something. It's easy enough to check if the ingredients are fresh, Landon interrupted coolly. The medics nodded. Mr. Morgan's symptoms are consistent with food poisoning. In that case, officers, please check the kitchen, Hazel said, a pointed look in her eyes. Landon and I aren't going to let our names be dragged through the mud over baseless accusations. This will prove we're innocent. The two officers exchanged a look, then headed decisively for the kitchen, followed by a crowd of onlookers eager to see what would happen next. Owen's face went pale. He scrambled forward to block their path. There's no need to bother the officers with something so minor. We can just... What's Owen so worried about? Hazel asked. She twirled a strand of hair around her finger, a smirk playing on her lips. An honest man has nothing to fear. Are you telling me you don't dare let them look? Owen's face went beet red. What's not to dare? I was just thinking. Before he could finish, the kitchen doors swung open, and Hazel's expression darkened instantly. She knew Ambrosia was a mess under Owen's management, but she'd never imagined it would be this bad. The kitchen was pure chaos, filthy, disorganized, with food scraps littering the floor. The entire place was disgusting. A wave of shock rippled through the guests. One guest said, Landon asked to see the kitchen, and I can't believe Ambrosia would be this shameless. I guess I underestimated how low the Morgan family could stoop. Another guest added, Food this gross? No wonder we got sick. They'd better pay for this. A third guest complained, and the Morgans have the nerve to call themselves one of the elite families in Athenbow? Owen is cutting corners like this just to make a quick buck. He's running the hotel's reputation into the ground. Landon's eyes narrowed slightly, more than pleased with this unexpected bonus. No one knew Ambrosia better than he did. With the rot starting at the top, it was only a matter of time before Owen's shoddy practices were exposed. Still, he hadn't expected Hazel to be the one to blow the whole thing wide open. Hazel put on a show of innocence, covering her mouth in mock shock. No wonder Owen didn't want us back here. After seeing this, how is Ambrosia supposed to stay in business? One of the police officers made the official call. Ambrosia will have to shut down for a full inspection and cleanup. Owen was trembling with panic. It's a misunderstanding. These ingredients were about to be thrown out. They weren't for the customers, I swear. Hazel's tone was ice cold. You always have an answer, don't you, Owen? Everything's just a misunderstanding. So, when you accused Landon of poisoning you earlier, was that a misunderstanding too? At that, the surrounding guests started murmuring again, their stares burning with disgust. A guest said, The proof is right in front of us. And he's still calling it a misunderstanding? What does he take us for? Idiots? Another guest remarked, "Seriously, are Daniel and Amelia out of their minds? Instead of appreciating a son like Landon, they spoil this adopted kid and hand him a business their real son built from scratch." A third guest lamented, "If Ambrosia were still in Landon's hands, it would be one of the top restaurants in Athenbow by now. What a waste." Another one scoffed, "And this whole poisoning story? Give me a break. They treated Landon like dirt for years, and now that they're scared he'll get payback, they get a stomachache and try to pin it on him? Pathetic." Daniel and Amelia's faces flushed red, then drained to a pasty white. They had never expected things to spiral this far out of control. Owen felt like he was going to pass out from the sheer rage and humiliation. Ambrosia's closure was official, and he was the butt of every joke. Everyone was saying it. He, the adopted son, couldn't hold a candle to Landon. He thought, "It can't be. No way. How could I ever be less than that nobody who crawled out of the gutter?" As the crowd thinned out, Hazel, her mission accomplished, lost interest in the drama. She walked right up to Owen and said slowly, "Well, now everyone knows you're useless. If you had just kept your head down, maybe you wouldn't have embarrassed yourself so completely." Her voice was deliberately cruel. "Maybe this is just fate, don't you think?" Owen couldn't take it anymore. A choked gasp tore from his throat, and he coughed violently, a coppery tang on his tongue as he collapsed. "This is just fate." Those were the exact words he had always used to taunt Landon. Landon being abandoned? Fate. Owen being adopted? Fate. Landon being unloved? Fate. Owen being the family's pride and joy? Also fate. And now, Hazel had thrown those words right back in his face. "Owen! Owen!" Amelia rushed to his side, her face a mask of panic and worry. Daniel, who had just been publicly humiliated by Owen's failure, was now playing the part of the perfect, doting father, shouting for a doctor as if nothing had happened. They never cared about Landon. Not once. Hazel scoffed. So fake. She turned and said breezily, "Well, that was fun. Let's go." Jack swallowed hard as he watched her walk away. The image of Hazel's words literally breaking Owen seared into his mind. He mumbled with a trace of fear, "Sir, don't you think she's a little intense?" Landon shot him a lazy, sideways glance, but it was loaded with enough silent threat to make it clear that another word might be his last. "Intense?" Landon repeated slowly. "She's adorable." Jack was speechless. Were he and his boss living in two completely different realities? Once they were back in the car, it was no surprise when Landon's phone rang. It was Grandpa Morgan. Landon's tone was flat. "Poisoning? Grandpa, are you serious? Why don't you ask the Morgan family doctor yourself?" Hazel blinked. So Grandpa Morgan was calling to chew them out? Landon suddenly let out a dry laugh, as if he'd just heard the most ridiculous joke on earth. "You're right. I guess taking care of the family screw-up falls on everyone." Grandpa Morgan was roaring on the other end, his voice so loud Hazel could hear every word. "Fine. Landon, you better hope I never find proof you were behind this." Landon's lips curved into a placid smile. "Be my guest." Then, without a second thought, He hung up and turned to Hazel with a half smile. "Mrs. Morgan, if they do find proof that I poisoned them, what do you think will happen?" Hazel swallowed nervously. "Mr. Morgan, if you have a clear conscience, you have nothing to worry about. Even if they investigate, they won't find anything to pin on you." "Oh?" Landon's eyes glinted with amusement as he pulled a small device from his pocket, a tiny camera. He toyed with it between his fingers. "But, Mrs. Morgan, I caught every move you made at the dinner table." The camera's playback showed her clearly, sprinkling a white powder into the seafood chowder like a seasoned pro. Hazel's eyes flew wide open. She was completely stunned. She wondered, where the hell did that camera come from? She was positive she had checked for all the security cameras when they arrived. Her face flushed bright red. Realizing she was caught, she decided to own it. She squared her shoulders and declared, "Mr. Morgan, I did it to help you. We're on the same team, so you better not sell me out." Landon's pale gray eyes lifted slightly. "Then maybe Mrs. Morgan can explain how the poison you used didn't show up on any of the lab tests." "Oh, that." Hazel's eyes sparkled with mischief, a clear sign she wasn't giving up her secrets that easily. "That's a little secret of mine, which is why you should think twice before crossing me, Mr. Morgan. I could poison you, and you'd never even know it." Jack, sitting in the driver's seat, shivered. The boss thought this woman was adorable. She was terrifying. Landon looked away, completely unfazed. Watching Hazel guard her secrets was like watching a little squirrel fiercely protecting its nest. It was dangerous, but somehow cute. Suddenly, Jack's phone vibrated. His expression turned grim, as if the phone were a ticking time bomb. "Sir." Hazel leaned over curiously. The caller ID lit up the screen, and her eyebrows shot up. If she wasn't mistaken, that number belonged to Angelica. The ringtone kept blaring. Hazel blinked. "You're not going to answer?" Landon's gaze was calm as he turned slightly toward her. "Do you want to?" Hazel's heart stuttered. "It's your phone. Why are you asking me?" Landon let out a low chuckle, hearing the hint of jealousy in her voice. "Then I won't get it." But the phone kept buzzing, relentless. Angelica clearly wasn't giving up. Hazel tapped her chin. "What if it's something important? You should probably answer it." Landon raised an eyebrow. A second later, the phone was in Hazel's hand. She answered right in front of him. Angelica's soft, almost pitiful voice drifted from the speaker. "Mr. Morgan, I'm sorry to call out of the blue, but there's something I could really use your help with." The car fell silent. Jack practically held his breath. Landon just watched, a flicker of amusement in his eyes, curious to see how Hazel would play this. Hazel narrowed her eyes and tutted softly. Then, in a sickeningly sweet voice, she cooed, "Angelica, honey, what's wrong?" There was a beat of silence. Then, Angelica's voice went sharp. "Why are you answering his phone?" Hazel feigned a look of pure innocence. "I'm just helping my husband out. Is that not what a wife does?" A sharp intake of breath on the other end. "If Landon's busy, then never mind." "Why never mind? You can tell me. Unless, is it something I'm not supposed to know?" Hazel propped her chin on her hand and called out in a syrupy tone. "Landon, darling, Angelica's being so weird. She says she can only talk to her brother-in-law. Doesn't she trust her own sister?" Angelica's voice trembled with rage. "Landon, are you there with her?" Hazel passed the phone to Landon. He gave it a brief glance. "Miss Ellington, what can I do for you?" Angelica's face must have twisted into a knot. With Hazel listening in, how could she possibly ask what she'd called for? "I'm sorry, Mr. Morgan. It's nothing. Since you're with Hazel, I'll just let you go." Hazel hung up before Angelica could finish her sentence. On the other end of the line, Angelica was met with a dial tone. Furious, she hurled her phone across the room. She gritted her teeth. "It was supposed to be me. 4 years ago," she fumed. Why was he still so hung up on Hazel? She should have gotten rid of her when she had the chance. Back in the car, Hazel nonchalantly tossed the phone back to Jack. Landon, clearly entertained, asked with a ghost of a smile, "Happy now?" Hazel blinked. Happy about what? Of course, she'd never admit how good that felt. But how could she not be? Watching Angelica lose her cool was a special kind of satisfying. Landon just looked out the window, saying nothing. Jack cleared his throat. "Sir, Miss Ellington was likely calling about the situation online." Hazel's ears perked up. The plagiarism scandal. Of course. It had to be blowing up by now. Even with shareholder Taylor taking the fall for her, Angelica's reputation must have taken a serious hit. She was probably hoping Landon would use his influence to make it all disappear. Hazel coughed lightly. "You're not going to help her, are you, Mr. Morgan?" She tried to sound casual, but a thread of anxiety ran through her voice. After all, Angelica was supposed to be Landon's savior. Who knew if he'd have a soft spot for her? But the whole story had never sat right with Hazel. Angelica, a woman who clearly wished she were dead, going out of her way to save someone? It rang false. The pieces just didn't fit. The car lurched to a sudden stop, jolting her from her thoughts. Caught off guard, she pitched forward, almost slamming into the back of the seat. She landed squarely in a pair of strong arms. Landon's grip tightened around her waist, pulling her securely onto his lap. The warmth of his hands seeped through her dress, steady and sure. Hazel's breath caught, her heart giving a wild flutter. She began. "I won't," Landon said, his voice low and definite. "Huh?" She blinked up at him. "Won't what?" "I won't help her. You can rest easy, Mrs. Morgan." It took her a second to realize he was answering her question from before. She was still sitting on his lap, their bodies pressed close. His warm breath ghosted over her ear as he spoke, sending a shiver down her spine. Hazel swallowed hard, trying to bank down the blush creeping up her neck. "You better mean that. If you go back on your word, I'll poison you." Landon chuckled at her empty threat. Message received. Mrs. Morgan is terrifying. Her ears burned and her cheeks flushed red. Ugh, why did he always make her feel like he was teasing a child? She squeezed her eyes shut, wishing the ground would swallow her whole. 30 minutes later, they pulled up to the Sapphire Valley Villa. The second the car stopped, Hazel practically bolted from her seat and hurried inside. Jack handed Landon a folder. "Sir, here's the quarterly report from Ethereal Lux." Landon flipped through it, his expression unreadable. Jack hesitated. "Also, Miss Angelica has reached out again. She seems very determined to join Ethereal Lux." Landon didn't even look up from the report. "After this whole plagiarism mess, she's still trying?" Before Jack could reply, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and his expression soured. "Sir, it's her again." A text from Angelica popped up. Mr. Morgan, you once promised me 2 favors. I'd like to talk about the second one. A moment later, her call came through. Landon's eyes narrowed. Put it on speaker. Angelica's trembling voice filled the car. Mr. Morgan, I'm desperate. The plagiarism incident, it wasn't my fault. Landon cut her off coolly. Get to the point, Miss Ellington. Angelica's jaw tightened. I want you to kill the rumors and greenlight my entry into Ethereal Lux. Will you do it? Silence stretched in the car. A bead of sweat trickled down Jack's temple. Just a little while ago, Landon had promised his wife he wouldn't get involved. Now Angelica was trying to cash in her life-saving favor chip. Jack held his breath, not daring to guess what his boss would do. Landon's expression was unyielding. Are you sure that's what you want for your second request? Angelica froze. If she used her last favor on this, Landon would owe her nothing. There would be no more excuses to contact him, no more leverage. No, that can't happen. She had to become Mrs. Morgan. She couldn't burn her last bridge for this. She bit her lip. Of course not. I'll tell you my second favor another time. If you won't help me with this now, then just forget it. Landon ended the call without another word. Jack cleared his throat carefully. Sir, I doubt that will be the end of it. This is about her reputation. The Ellington family might try to take it out on Mrs. Morgan. A faint, sharp smile touched Landon's lips, a dangerous glint in his eyes. The Ellingtons? Coming after her? He almost laughed. If they did, they had no idea what was coming. At the Ellington estate, Angelica slammed her phone onto a table, a vein throbbing at her temple. A maid approached cautiously. Miss Angelica, your grandfather said you should. She cried out as a sharp sting bloomed across her face. Angelica had struck her, hard. Her voice was pure venom. What did you call me? Miss Angelica? I am the heiress of the Ellington family. She was a year older than Hazel. She should have been Miss Ellington. But it was always Miss Angelica this, Miss Angelica that, while Hazel was treated as the one and only heiress. Why? What gave that witch the right? The maid clutched her stinging cheek, trembling. I'm sorry, Miss Angelica. Angelica grabbed the maid's hair, yanking her head back with a face twisted in rage. Shut up! You're nothing but a worthless servant. How dare you talk back to me? You think Hazel still means anything in this house? Kneel! She was so consumed by her fury, she never saw Grandpa Ellington standing in the doorway, having heard every last word. Upstairs, in the master bedroom of the Sapphire Valley Villa, Hazel was scrolling through the trending topic, Angelica plagiarism scandal. She tapped on it and saw a comment. Bad enough she plagiarized, but then she plays the victim and tells the real creator to die? What a total piece of work. Hazel thought for a second, then tapped the like button. Underneath, someone tried to defend her. That was all on shareholder Taylor. He was playing his own game. But that reply was immediately buried under a wave of angry comments. Are you serious? So it's shareholder Taylor's fault? He just gave her some inspiration, and she happened to use it? We're not stupid. It's obvious those two teamed up to frame Hazel. Hazel hit like again, a sense of satisfaction washing over her. Never liked that girl. She's just a stepdaughter, but acts like she's some kind of princess. Hazel is way more down to earth. She tapped like. Angelica and Caroline are two of a kind, always trying to screw over the real heiress. If her mistress mom, Katie, hadn't helped, Angelica never would have gotten away with framing Hazel. She tapped like again. Is the entire Ellington family brainwashed? Ignoring their own daughter to protect the stepsister? Hey, Ellington Group, maybe your CEO should get his head examined. She firmly tapped like. At this point, I'm starting to wonder if Hazel is even their real daughter. They probably just want her inheritance. She tapped like again and again. Hazel went on a liking rampage, her thumb tapping the little heart icon on everything from the plagiarism accusations to the wildest conspiracy theories about the Ellington family. It didn't take long for people to notice. Yo, is anyone else seeing someone named Hazel liking all these comments? That's not just anyone. It's her verified account. If she's liking this stuff, maybe we're onto something. With a satisfied sigh, Hazel locked her phone. Meanwhile, Jack noticed the flurry of likes and immediately reported it to Landon. Sir, should I do something about this? Jack asked. Landon answered coolly. No need. Let her have her fun, he thought. Jack hesitated. But sir, that's her public account. Everyone knows it's her. If she keeps liking posts trashing Angelica, Angelica's fans could come after her. Landon looked up, his expression unreadable. Then let them. Let them turn this into a firestorm. The public can decide for themselves what the truth is. Jack blinked. Then he understood. Yes, sir. Back at the Ellington estate, Troy was already at his wits' end trying to kill the trending topic. But the moment Hazel started liking those posts, it shot straight back up the charts, landing at number 3. He felt like he was about to have an aneurysm. That ungrateful little brat! He slammed his palm on the table. He took a deep breath, trying to rein in his anger, and turned to Angelica. Angelica, did Mr. Morgan agree to help? Angelica's face fell. She shook her head stiffly. She'd already called Landon, but he'd told her that if she wanted his help, she'd have to use her second request. That was absolutely out of the question. Angelica lowered her eyes, hiding the resentment burning in them. Dad, she said softly, even if Landon wanted to help, Hazel would never let him. They're married. He can't just openly side with me. Troy gritted his teeth. If you had been the one to marry Landon Morgan instead of that brat, none of this would be happening. Angelica glanced at Katie, who immediately picked up on her cue. She stepped forward, her face a mask of concern. Troy, honey, I don't know if I should say this, but just say it! Katie sighed dramatically. Well, Angelica saved Landon's life. If he refuses to help her now, he might regret it later. And when he does, he could end up blaming our family for not sticking by her. So the best thing for us to do, she continued, her voice laced with worry, is to protect Angelica's reputation and do whatever it takes to clear her name. Troy frowned. What are you getting at? Katie replied, as if the thought had just occurred to her. It's actually a simple fix. All we need is for Hazel to release a statement. She can just say she gave Angelica the design a long time ago, that it was all just a joke between sisters. If we frame it like that, the whole thing will blow over, she added meaningfully. I mean, if the supposed victim forgives her, why would anyone else keep attacking her? The public is only coming after Angelica because Hazel is fueling the fire. Troy, I'm not just saying this because she's my daughter. This is about what's best for the Ellington family. Troy was silent for a moment, thinking it over. Katie had a point. The online backlash was only spiraling because Hazel hadn't let it go. But if Hazel just came out and said it was all a misunderstanding, A thought struck him. "I'll call Hazel." Hazel glanced at her phone. Troy. A single eyebrow arched as she answered the call. Surprisingly, there was no yelling. Troy's voice was measured, almost like a concerned father. "Hazel, I need to talk to you. Do you have a minute?" Hazel answered lazily. "Nope." "You." Troy started, but swallowed his anger. "Hazel, listen. Things are a mess here. Angelica only got into this business to help the family. She only used your design because she was manipulated by shareholder Taylor." He softened his tone. "What if you just put out a statement? Say you understand what happened and you don't blame her. Just smooth things over. People will admire how forgiving you are. What do you say?" Hazel raised an eyebrow. So that was their play. A public pardon. Forgive Angelica? In her dreams. "Not happening," she said, her voice flat. "Hazel, he began. Before Troy could get another word out, Hazel cut him off, her tone sharp as glass. "Mr. Ellington, do you really think everyone is that stupid? It's obvious shareholder Taylor is just a scapegoat. You think Angelica can just walk away from this? What about the $1 million that magically appeared in Taylor's bank account? And why did Angelica go on the attack after she was caught? Do you have an answer for any of that?" Troy's face darkened. "It's complicated." "Mr. Ellington," Hazel said, her voice dropping, cool and clear. "If I go public and say this was all just some joke, nobody is going to believe Angelica is innocent. They're going to think the Ellington family bullied their own daughter into taking the fall for a plagiarist." She paused, letting the silence hang in the air before adding lightly, "But hey, if you're okay with that kind of blowback, then sure, I'll release a statement." The line went quiet. Troy sounded deeply uneasy. Because he knew she was right. In this situation, Hazel forgiving Angelica would only make them all look worse. "Then what do you suggest we do?" He finally snapped. A slow, knowing smile spread across Hazel's face. "Angelica can still be saved," she said, her voice dangerously sweet. "But someone has to take the fall. The plagiarism happened. That's a fact. So, Mr. Ellington, maybe it's time you started thinking outside the box. Don't you agree?" Someone else could take the fall for her. Troy gritted his teeth. What's that supposed to mean? Hazel spoke slowly, her words deliberate and sharp. There's no explaining away that $1 million wire to shareholder Taylor, so don't even bother trying. Just get someone else to take the fall. She continued, You tell the public that Angelica had no idea that she's completely innocent. The real mastermind behind it all was someone else entirely. I have a brilliant idea. Interested, Mr. Ellington? Troy was cornered. Spit it out. A knot of dread tightened in Katie's stomach. Sure enough, Hazel's next words were calm, cutting, and sent Katie plunging into an abyss. Simple. Let Katie take the fall. Hazel said, You announced to the public that this was all Katie's doing, that she was just trying to help Angelica secure her spot as the heir. Tell them she never liked me, the daughter from my father's first marriage. Frame it as her scheme to pin the plagiarism on me, and that poor, innocent Angelica just trusted her mother's inspiration. How could that possibly be Angelica's fault? If you spin it like that, it all makes sense. People will eat it up. And, Mrs. Bryant, I'm sure you'd be willing to do that, right? Hazel's smile was pure ice. After all, Angelica is a public figure with a perfect image to uphold. But you're already known as a homewrecker who abused her husband's first daughter. What's one more scandal at this point? Katie froze, a deep chill seeping into her bones. Her lips trembled. "Hazel, how could you?" she stammered. Hazel's smile only widened. "So, Mr. Ellington, what do you think of my proposal?" The line went dead silent. Hazel's smile deepened as the memories came flooding back. Years ago, the Ellingtons had been visiting the Carters. Angelica had broken Mrs. Carter's expensive jade bracelet, and Katie had pulled a 7-year-old Hazel aside. Katie had told her, "Hazel, listen, Angelica is a sweet girl, but she's just my stepdaughter. If she admits she did this, the Carters will never let her live it down. But you're different. You don't have a mother. They'll go easy on a motherless child if you take the blame." Pressured by both Katie and Troy, 7-year-old Hazel couldn't fight back. She took the blame and felt the sting of Mrs. Carter's slap across her face. All the while, Angelica played the part of the kind sister, rushing in to comfort her. When Hazel was 10, Angelica shoved another girl into a pond during a party. Katie came to her again with the same request. "Hazel, this could get really ugly. Can you just take the blame for her? Angelica is so fragile, and being the stepdaughter in this family is hard on her. Can't you see that? Besides, your reputation is already shot. No one will even be surprised." So Hazel took the fall. Again and again, she shouldered the blame for Angelica's mistakes. Soon after, the Ellingtons branded her malicious and shipped her off to the countryside. When she came back, Caroline stole her fiancé, and Katie had just smirked, smug and superior. "Hazel, your reputation is in the gutter. Who would ever want to marry you? Just let Caroline have him. Can't you make one little sacrifice for the family?" Hazel remembered every single word, and now she threw them right back in Katie's face. "Mrs. Bryant, if Angelica admits what she did, the public will crucify her. But you're already known as a shameless homewrecker. If you take the fall, nobody will bat an eye. It's a small sacrifice for the good of the Ellington family, isn't it?" Katie was shaking uncontrollably. Those were the exact, cutting words she had used on Hazel all those years ago. She thought, No, this can't be happening." She broke down, her voice trembling with desperation. "Troy, no, please. I'm your wife. My reputation reflects on you. If people think I abused Hazel, they'll destroy me. I won't survive that. I'd rather die." Troy started to waver, but Hazel's voice turned to ice. "Mr. Ellington, you need to think very carefully about this. If Angelica's reputation is ruined, forget her career. Think about Landon. Do you really think he's going to let this slide?" She didn't hesitate to use his name. "Are you really going to sacrifice the woman who saved Landon just to protect Katie? How do you think he'll react to that?" A chill ran down Troy's spine. She was right. Landon would never let Angelica's name be dragged through the mud. And if Mr. Morgan found out the Ellingtons had a way to protect Angelica, but chose not to, he would be furious. Troy clenched his jaw. "Katie, Hazel's right. You're the only one who can take the fall for this." "That's right, Mrs. Bryant." Her voice slow and deliberate, Hazel said. "Angelica might not share the Ellington blood, but she's still your daughter. As her mother, you wouldn't be that heartless, would you?" Even Angelica, seeing her best way out, chimed in. "Mom, please, help me." Katie's face was chalk white. She staggered back a step. "You're all," she whispered, her voice trailing off. She thought, monsters. Hazel was a devil in disguise. Her goal accomplished, Hazel hung up without a second thought. So, Katie didn't want to take the fall? How ironic. They had no problem forcing a 10-year-old girl to take the blame for Angelica time and time again. This was just karma. The plagiarism scandal might not be enough to completely ruin Angelica, but at least Hazel could make Katie know what it felt like to be thrown away. She tossed her phone onto the table just as a knock came at her door. "Mrs. Morgan, Mr. Morgan noticed you hardly touched your food earlier. He's asked you to come down for dinner." Hazel touched her stomach. She really hadn't eaten much at Ambrosia and was starting to feel hungry. Landon was so thoughtful. When she reached the dining room and took her seat, her phone started buzzing over and over. It was Gavin. He had texted, "I saw all those posts you liked. Angelica's playing the victim again, and her clueless fans are coming after you. Are you gonna clap back or what?" Hazel's eyes narrowed. She hadn't expected the Ellingtons to move that fast. She quickly typed back, "No need." Just as she was about to take a bite, Landon, the man sitting across from her, slid a plate of stone crab claws in her direction. His tone was casual, but his eyes were twinkling with mischief. "Mrs. Morgan, you must be exhausted after fighting so eloquently with strangers on the internet. Have some more crab to get your energy back." Hazel was speechless. She thought, wait, what? Fighting on the internet? Exhausted from typing? He couldn't have seen her arguing with Angelica's fans online, could he? Landon's eyes sparkled with an unreadable amusement. "It seems Mrs. Morgan forgot that I followed her Twitter account a while ago. I've become a pretty loyal fan." He pulled out his phone, opened the app right in front of her, and started reading one of her liked tweets aloud, word for word. "Honestly, I think Hazel is way prettier than Angelica. She's smarter, more talented, and she's the real heiress. I just don't get why anyone..." His voice trailed off as he watched her reaction. "Stop! Don't read any more!" Hazel lunged across the table and slapped her hand over his phone, completely mortified. She thought, so this is what it feels like to die of embarrassment. Oh God. Landon had seen everything. Every single tweet, every like. He'd probably scrolled through it all. By himself, in complete silence. She just wanted the ground to swallow her whole. Hazel could hardly imagine what Landon thought of her. Did he think I'm that shallow and dramatic? She wondered. Landon raised an eyebrow. You don't want to hear the rest? You've liked 215 tweets and posted 16 of your own. If Mrs. Morgan would like, I can read every single one of them out loud. Hazel felt her face burn. She hadn't even realized she'd liked that many. And every single one of them was mocking Angelica. No wonder Angelica's fans were losing their minds and coming for her. But still, Hazel straightened her back, a wave of defiance washing over her. So what if I liked those posts? I am prettier than Angelica, right? And I have a better education. Isn't my design work way better than hers? Landon chuckled. There's nothing wrong with it. Mrs. Morgan is very confident. Hazel paused. He wasn't being sarcastic when he said, very confident, was he? Seeing she'd gone quiet, Landon smoothly changed the subject. Luke just bought a ski resort. Wanna go? Hazel's eyes lit up. She'd always wanted to learn how to ski, but something always got in the way. The resort isn't officially open yet, Landon said. Luke's just inviting a few close friends for a sneak peek. You'll have plenty of time to learn. If it wasn't open to the public, the place would be empty. Perfect for a beginner. Hazel swallowed. Are you going to teach me? Landon paused, then let out a low laugh. Who else would Mrs. Morgan want teaching her? To her own horror, Hazel felt her heart flutter. After they set a date for the trip, Hazel went upstairs. The next morning, she woke up to find Angelica's apology video plastered all over her social media feed. Once again, Angelica was playing the poor, innocent victim. Hazel tapped on the link. Angelica, wearing just enough makeup to sell the no makeup look, stood before the camera, looking exhausted and remorseful. I want to apologize for my mother. What she did was unforgivable, and she's already facing the consequences. I just hope everyone can move forward with compassion. Of course, Angelica was ruthless enough to throw her own mother under the bus. After days of public backlash, her fans finally felt like they'd won. One comment read, "We knew our Angelica would never do something like that. It's all her mother's fault for dragging her down." Another added, "Exactly. Katie is her mother. Of course Angelica trusted her. How was she supposed to know the design her mom gave her was stolen from Hazel? Poor Angelica, getting blamed for nothing." A few sane voices pushed back. One asked, "But her mom gave her the design, and Angelica passed it off as her own. How is that not plagiarism? How can you call yourself a genius designer when you're using someone else's work?" That comment was quickly drowned out by angry fans. One retorted, "Shut up. You one of Hazel's paid trolls. Angelica didn't steal anything." Another wrote, "So what if she used someone else's idea? Hazel should be honored Angelica even glanced at it." A supporter commented, "Whether Angelica is a genius or not, just wait for the competition. She'll prove it then." Another agreed. "Exactly. The design competition is coming up. We'll see who the real winner is." Hazel closed the app, bored. The rabid fans were just copying and pasting the same talking points. Nothing new. Just then, her phone rang. Luke's arrogant voice boomed from the speaker. "Heard you're coming to the ski resort. Well, out of the goodness of my heart, I'll come pick you up myself tomorrow. Aren't you touched?" Hazel rolled her eyes, glancing at the caller ID. "You're picking me up?" "No thanks. Landon's coming with me." "What, you mean you didn't know?" Luke's voice spiked with glee, getting louder for dramatic effect. "You're his smokin' hot wife, and you didn't even know Landon has plans tomorrow? How sad. I guess it's up to me to come rescue you." Hazel's brow furrowed. Landon had plans? Just then, Miller, the butler, must have overheard, because he stepped closer with a warm smile. "Don't worry, ma'am. Sir has a meeting tomorrow. He'll fly out to join you a little later." Hazel was about to say she'd just wait and go with Landon, but Miller added, "Sir's schedule is completely packed. He'll be going straight from the meeting to the airport without a break. It'll be quite late, and he didn't want you to get tired waiting. That's why he specifically asked Mr. Caden to pick you up." Luke chimed in, not missing a beat. "Yep, that's exactly what he said." A little wave of warmth spread through Hazel's chest. "Oh, so that's why. Miller smiled again. Sir said that as long as you're happy, ma'am, that's all that matters. There's no need for thank yous between a husband and wife. Luke was speechless. Wait a second, he thought. I called to mess with her, so how did this end up making them sound even more like a lovey-dovey couple? Meanwhile, at Morgan Group, Jack finished his briefing. Sir, I've adjusted the schedule. You'll have 5 days free, max. The meeting has been moved to tomorrow. Landon nodded calmly. And Hazel? All set. Luke will pick her up personally. Good. Just then, an assistant knocked on the door. Sir, a Miss Angelica Evans is downstairs asking to see you. I'm not seeing her. The assistant hesitated. She said she wants to talk to you about the second condition. Landon's eyes flicked up. The second condition? He thought. Send her up. Angelica walked into the office as if she'd expected the invitation all along. Mr. Morgan, I knew you'd see me. Landon cut right to the chase. What do you want? Angelica's eyes glinted. Mr. Morgan, I'd like... When it was time to leave, Hazel glanced at the schedule Jack had sent. Sure enough, Landon's day was packed wall to wall with meetings. She boarded the private jet with Luke, and after a 3-hour flight, a driver took them to a sprawling mountain estate. There's a hot spring resort and a ski lodge on the property, Luke explained cheerfully. We'll stay at the resort tonight. A good soak is perfect after a long flight. Oh, and listen up. Luke leaned in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Hazel, I set you up with a very special room. Reserved it myself. Nobody else has one like it. Hazel looked at him, confused. Lowering his voice even more, Luke glanced around dramatically. Not only does the room have a private hot spring, but let's just say it was designed with romance in mind. You and Landon are gonna love it. Hazel instantly got a bad feeling. When she walked into the room, her fears were confirmed. The space was designed for intimacy, with a sleek glass wall separating the bedroom from the bathroom. The shower was shielded by a panel of frosted glass, offering privacy while hinting at the silhouette within. And just outside the sliding doors, nestled in a private garden, was a huge, open-air hot spring. Luke's eyes gleamed. Imagine it, Hazel. A private outdoor hot spring, no one else around. Just you and Landon under the stars. The perfect romantic escape. He gave a knowing grin and bolted before she could say a word. That left Hazel frozen in the middle of the room, just staring. An open-air hot spring. A shower that was more suggestion than screen. The suite felt incredibly intimate. Did Landon know what kind of room Luke had arranged? She wondered. Her cheeks slowly began to burn. The next morning, Hazel had barely opened her eyes when a text from Luke buzzed on her phone. Landon was at the base of the mountain and would be there any minute. She shot out of bed to get ready, her eyes catching on the see-through bathroom wall. She swallowed hard. She told herself not to even go there. Downstairs, Luke was already grinning from ear to ear, wiggling his eyebrows at her from across the lobby. Well, how was the room? Everything you'd hoped for? He asked. Hazel coughed. Luke's smirk widened. It's completely private. No one will bother you. And that courtyard is perfect for some, quality time. Whoa, is that Mr. Morgan's car? someone suddenly shouted, cutting Luke off. Luke's head snapped toward the entrance, his face lighting up. "That's Landon's car. Hazel, come on, let's," he started to say. Before he could finish, a woman shrieked from the crowd. "Oh my God, look! There's a woman in Mr. Morgan's car!" "What? Let me see. Wait, isn't that Angelica?" Hazel's head whipped around. Angelica, she wondered. "Oh my God, Mr. Morgan and Angelica look so perfect together. It's so obvious they're meant to be, right?" "Totally. He's the hero, she's the damsel in distress. They're the perfect ship." Luke's brow slammed down. What the hell? He thought. Hazel was standing right there. Did these people have no shame, talking about Landon and some other woman? Before he could open his mouth, someone murmured, Miss White? Mr. Morgan's married." But Miss White clearly didn't care. She scoffed, her voice loud and bold. "So what? I heard Grandma Perry forced him into that marriage. He probably just married some random girl. There's no way he actually likes her." But Angelica's different. I heard that 4 years ago when she went overseas, it was Mr. Morgan who was secretly bankrolling her. You really think she could have gotten this far in the entertainment industry without someone powerful backing her? A series of gasps rippled through the onlookers. "Wait, are you saying Mr. Morgan is her sugar daddy?" Miss White nodded smugly. "Of course. Everyone in the industry knows Angelica is the real future Mrs. Morgan. No one dares to mess with her. Look, Luke invited his friends to celebrate the opening, and they all brought their families. But Mr. Morgan brought Angelica instead of his wife. What does that tell you?" Luke's hands clenched into fists. What the hell was Landon thinking, bringing Angelica here? Miss White was still rambling. "If you ask me, Angelica is the one he really wants. As for that wife he's got stashed at home, a divorce is just a matter of time." A splash of water hit Miss White square in the face. She shrieked, sputtering. "Are you crazy? What the hell is your problem?" Hazel calmly lowered her hand, her voice dangerously quiet. "Wishing for my divorce? Yeah, I'd say that's a problem." Miss White's face contorted with rage. "I wasn't talking about you. I was talking about that useless Mrs. Morgan, some cheap little—" She trailed off. "Oh, are these the kinds of manners the White family is known for?" A smooth, elegant voice cut in from nearby. Jacob strolled over, casual in a light windbreaker, a gentle smile playing on his lips. "Miss Ellington, we meet again." Hazel pressed her lips into a thin line. Why was Jacob here too? Miss White stiffened, but her friend grabbed her arm, hissing urgently. "Stop it! Luke and Mr. Carter are right here, and I think that is the real Mrs. Morgan." Miss White's face twisted in ugly disbelief. After a beat, she sneered. "So what if she is? Let's go." Luke was fuming. What the hell is wrong with them? Gossiping like it's a damn sport. The White family, huh? I'm kicking every last one of them out. Jacob, however, was the picture of calm. If you kick them out, you'll only give them more to talk about. Why not just have a quiet word with Mr. White? A gentle reminder to keep his daughter on a tighter leash. He turned to Hazel, his smile polite. "What do you think, Miss Ellington?" Thanks to Landon, Hazel didn't have the energy to form an opinion on Jacob. She wasn't interested. She turned to leave without a word, but the second she turned, she came face to face with Landon and Angelica walking side by side. She froze. Angelica was tucked so close to Landon's side that, from a distance, it looked like she was practically hanging off his shoulder. "Thank you, Mr. Morgan," she said. "My luggage was just a little heavy. Could you give me a hand?" Landon took the bag from her without a word. The scene played out in front of Hazel, and a wave of dizziness washed over her. Angelica's voice was soft. "Mr. Morgan, Hazel's never really liked me. If she sees us arriving together, she might get the wrong idea. You should go talk to her. I'll head upstairs on my own." Then, with a sigh of practiced helplessness, she turned to Hazel. "Oh, Hazel, I didn't expect to run into you here. I'm the one who insisted on coming with Mr. Morgan. Please don't be mad at him." It felt like a band of steel was tightening around Hazel's chest, making it hard to breathe. Luke had said everyone could bring their spouse or family. Everyone else was here with a partner or a kid. But Landon brought Angelica? That was bad enough, but they also showed up in the same car. And now he was carrying her luggage? No wonder people were getting the wrong idea. And Angelica's fake apologies were just gloating wrapped in a pretty package. Something inside Hazel snapped. Before Landon could get a single word out, she spun on her heel and marched right over to Jacob. Jacob shot Landon a look dripping with amusement. "Miss Ellington, care to join me for breakfast?" A muscle in Landon's jaw twitched. He did not like the look of this. Hazel flashed a bright, brittle smile. "I'd love to." So, Landon could play house with Angelica, but she couldn't even have breakfast with Jacob? She walked toward the dining area without a second glance. Landon started after her, but his phone rang. With a slight frown, he answered it. By the time he hung up, Hazel was long gone. 30 minutes later, Jacob's smile was as warm and polite as ever. "Miss Ellington, would you like to go skiing together?" Hazel had only agreed to breakfast out of pure spite. Now, the anger had drained away, leaving her feeling exhausted and empty. She had zero interest in spending another minute with him. "I think I'll pass." Jacob's eyes narrowed just a fraction, the smile not quite reaching them. "All right, if you insist." She turned to head back to her room, but a figure appearing in the lobby stopped her cold. It was Landon, holding 2 sets of ski gear. Tall and composed, he cut a striking figure in his windbreaker. He stopped, instantly becoming the center of attention, and his gaze landed directly on Hazel. Hazel's eyes darted away as she pretended not to see him. Jacob chuckled softly, fully aware of the drama. "Looks like you'll be skiing with Landon after all, Miss Ellington. I won't get in your way." Hazel tilted her head. "He came to ski with me?" she wondered. That's right. Before the trip, he'd promised he would teach her. She was still furious, but a part of her didn't want to lose this. She hesitated for just a second. "Landon!" a cheerful voice called out. Hazel turned. Angelica was beaming, rushing toward him. Before anyone could process what was happening, she darted forward and snatched one of the ski suits from his hand, smiling up at him sweetly. "Landon, thank you! I can't believe you even got ski clothes for me!"